This is the Frost Death Knight in-depth rotation guide for Mist of Pandaria Classic. In this video, I'll be covering both Masterfrost and two-hand Obliterate specs, each in their own section. If you want to skip ahead, there are timestamps in the description for whichever part you're looking for. So, what's the actual difference between Masterfrost and Obliterate? Masterfrost is based on stacking the Mastery stat, which was introduced in Cataclysm. This means you're primarily casting spells that scale with Mastery, mainly spamming Howling Blast instead of Obliterate, though you'll still be using Oblit. I'll explain how that fits in shortly. This spec uses dual-wield weapons. The Obliterate Rotation is a classic Frost style from Wrath, slightly updated. You'll be spamming Obliterate and Mastery becomes your worst stat. Instead, you'll prioritize Crit and Haste and use a two-handed weapon. Both specs do roughly the same single target DPS, but Masterfrost is still the go-to. Why? Because of AoE damage. Most of Frost's AoE comes from Howling Blast, which scales extremely well with Mastery. Since Obliterate spec doesn't prioritize that stat, it falls behind in AoE. Plus, you won't be casting Oblit in AoE scenarios, but you'll still be using Frost Strike, which benefits from Mastery, and with dual wielding, Frost Strike gets a 50% damage boost from Threat of Thessarian. This makes a big difference in AoE. Starting off, let's talk about a few spells. You have Frost Fever and Blood Plague, both dealing damage every 3 seconds for 30 seconds, starting at 3 seconds. That's 10 ticks per disease. There's also a 3-second grace period at the end, meaning if you reapply the disease with 3 seconds left, it'll extend to 33 seconds. Frost Fever is applied automatically with Howling Blast to everything within 10 yards of your target. Blood Plague is applied by Plague Strike to your main target. You can then use Pestilence to spread it. To find out if Pestilence is worth pressing, you can use the following formula to find out when it is worth it. Howling Blast AoE modifier is currently 65%. In Phase 1 Bis, Howling Blast hits for roughly 100k damage, and Blood Plague ticks for roughly 11k. Y is the number of ticks a Blood Plague needed to surpass Howling Blast. Blood Plague ticks 10 times in its 30-second duration, and for example at 4 targets, you'd get about 9 ticks of damage to be equal to Howling Blast. This means the adds would need to live 27 seconds to be worth casting Pestilence. Remember that Plague Leech consumes both diseases and refreshes up to 2 fully depleted rune slots, prioritizing Unholy and Frost runes. For example, if you had no Frost and Unholy runes, you'd gain 1 of each back as a Death rune. Blood Tap refreshes a single fully depleted rune as a Death rune, prioritizing Unholy first. Cooldowns are a core part of the Frost DK gameplay. No matter the spec, using them effectively without wasting uses is a huge part of your overall DPS. Holding for specific boss phases is fine, but missing a use entirely is a huge DPS loss. Army of the Dead will summon ghouls that taunt non-boss mobs, or they don't taunt with the glyph. Use this before pull or before a burst phase. Empower Rune Weapon instantly refreshes all runes and gives you 25 RP, or 30 in Frost Presence. It's great to line up with burst windows or trinket procs. Raise Dead summons a ghoul for 60 seconds. Scales with attack power and haste. Use this on pull and on cooldown. Pillar Frost gives you 20% strength for 20 seconds. Use this on cooldown every minute. Outbreak applies both diseases. Use this only when Blood Plague has fallen off. Anti-Magic Cell absorbs 75% of spell damage, up to 50% of your max HP, and prevents debuffs. Generates RP based on the damage amount absorbed. Death and Decay will deal AoE damage over 10 seconds every second starting on application. Use this on 2 or more targets that will remain in it for the full duration. Horn of Winter will give you 10 runic power or 20 with the glyph, and provides 10% attack power buff to raid or party members for 5 minutes. Use this when you're out of resources to get free runic power. Death Grip will taunt and pull a non-boss enemy, but it will still taunt bosses unless you have the glyph. Dark Simulacrum copies a casted spell for 8 seconds, mostly useful for niche boss mechanics or PvP. Starting off with the Masterfrost Rotation, before the pull, cast Raise Dead at 7 seconds, then Army the Dead at 6 seconds. Raise Dead takes about 5 seconds before the ghoul starts attacking, so doing it early ensures it's active for your pillar window. As the pull begins, pre-pot with Potion of Mogu Power, then cast Outbreak and Pillar of Frost as you move to the boss. Depending on your range, open with either Howling Blast or Obliterate. You want to get your runes on cooldown fast, Obliterate is best for that. Follow that up with another Obliterate, then a Howling Blast. Watch for Killing Machine procs and spend them on Frost Strike in between rune usage. Use Frost Strike to dump RP while your runes recharge. In longer fights, use Empower Rune Weapon early to get a second use later on. After using it, follow the same opener to get your runes going again. You can also use Plague Leech early during Lust, just make sure Blood Plague is up before casting Obliterate. Wait for an Unholy Rune to use Plague Strike first. Use Blood Tap before reaching 12 stacks, never overcap. Use Plague Leech when your diseases are about to expire, but only Blood Plague really needs your attention. Use Frost Strike when you're about to cap RP or if you have a KM proc. If you're out of RP and both diseases are active, it's fine to cast Obliterate, even using Blood Tap to get the rune if necessary. Use Howling Blast anytime you have full Frost or Death runes, don't let them sit full. Spend Rime procs as soon as possible. For Unholy runes, check Blood Plague. If it has 3 or more seconds, cast Obliterate. If not, cast Plague Strike. That takes priority over Outbreak, which should only be used when you're in range and have no Unholy runes. Once Unholy runes are spent, finish the rest of your runes with Howling Blast and weave in Frost Strikes as needed. When you're rune starved, dump RP, use Horn of Winter, or cast Plague Leech if ready. If you're sitting on a lone Unholy rune with no RP or Blood Tap, cast Death and Decay for some extra damage. At 35% boss HP, add Soul Reaper to your rotation. Cast it every 6 seconds, or earlier if the boss will drop below 35% soon. Use Blood Tap if you need a rune to get it out. You might wonder why we take Blood Tap when it seems so underused. The strength of Blood Tap is the control. Save it for damage amp windows, AoE bursts, or to align with Pillar. Want to get more Howling Blasts out during AoE? Blood Tap gives you that flexibility. For a laser option, you can macro into Frost Strike and passively get runes, though you lose the manual control. This is still better than Runic Empowerment since you can turn Unholy runes into Death runes, or you can just run Runic Empowerment anyway and hope for good RNG. As for AoE in Masterfrost, your rotation is mostly the same, cast Howling Blast. At 4 or more targets, you'll drop Obliterate entirely, and if enemies live for longer than 30 seconds, use Pestilence to sped Blood Plague. Use Death and Decay with your Unholy rune, and burn Blood Tap and Plague Leech to cast even more Howling Blasts. Whatever it takes, just keep casting Howling Blast.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Cooldown should be saved for AoE if you know it's coming up. For Frost Strike, only use it when you're out of runes. Your Obliterate rotation is roughly the same opener. Raise Dead at 7 seconds, Army at 6 seconds before pull, pre-pot, and then cast Outbreak and Pillar on your way in. If you're still out of melee range, throw a Howling Blast or 2 to fill in your DCDs. As soon as you reach the boss, Obliterate to spend your runes, weaving in Frost Strikes if you're close to RP cap. Use Plague Leech if your diseases are about to expire, then reapply with Outbreak if it's up, or Howling Blast and Plague Strike if it's not. KM procs should always go to Obliterate. If no runes are capped, use Rime procs on Howling Blast. Before spending your last few runes, look to maximize KM procs, spend some Frost Strikes to build blood charges, and once KM procs, throw a massive Obliterate. Don't overcap your blood charges, use them at 11 or more. If KM isn't up and you're rune starved, use Horn of Winter to generate RP. Finish off your runes with Obliterate, and use Plague Leech or Empower Rune Weapon if necessary. Blood Tap sees a lot more use here, mainly to get Obliterate off when you have a KM proc. At 35% boss HP, add Soul Reaper to your rotation. Cast it every 6 seconds, or earlier if the boss will drop below 35% soon. Use Blood Tap if you need a rune to get it out. For AoE, it's a little bit more complex, but for 2 targets, you'll stay on your single target rotation. Once you get 3 or more, start dropping Obliterate priority slightly, still using KM procs on Oblit. At 4 targets, drop KM entirely. Spend all runes on Howling Blast, and keep D&D up with your Unholy rune. Then use Obliterate with the other Unholy rune if Blood Plague is already up. At 5 or more targets, you'll just drop Obliterate completely and go straight to Masterfrost AoE Rotation. That wraps up the Frost DK rotations. If you're looking to practice, the next Action Guide add-on is great for training. It shows you what to press next, and it works on target dummies. Want to use it in the world or in dungeons and raids? You can use code Darkfrog for 10% off. Thanks for watching, and make sure to blast those meters.